r/AskReddit. Redditors. What are some seriously scary disturbing ass stories that did indeed happen to you or someone you know? A friend of mine is a nurse. She recently had a 18-year-old guy brought in who failed at killing himself via light rail train. When he was brought in, he was severed in half at the waist and was missing most of one of his arms. They knew he won't make it, but they tried to make him comfortable. Repeated attempts to reach his family failed, until he admitted that he ran away from home because his family didn't love him. His parents were finally reached, were told of his condition, and they coldly refused to come to the hospital. The young man lived in agony for another 12 hours before dying. Just ducking Christ. That poor guy. Can you imagine having parents' family like that? This breaks my heart for so many reasons. I heard this story from my dad. One of his co-workers' mom had lived alone. One morning, she had woken up unable to move her limbs. She waited for 2 days stuck in her bed, unable to do anything. Lucky for her, someone, I don't remember who, happened to come to visit her on the 3rd day. Turned out she had an infarction in her brain and it had made her unable to move. She was hospitalized for a long time because she got into a really bad condition during those 2 days she spent stuck in place. At least for me, the idea of waking up unable to move and waiting 2 days alone, expecting that you die, is really disturbing. Female family member who was 18 at the time lived on her own and was chilling out at home. Late at night she heard loud, frantic banging on her door. She opened it to see 2 naked women covered in blood, crying and screaming on her doorstep. They begged her to let them in as he's chasing us. He has a knife. She let them in and they told her that a man had kidnapped them. Family member called the police. Much later, after the court case, the newspapers, everyone found out what happened leading up to those events. The man in question was coked up, and when his girlfriend decided to go for a night out, he rang and ordered a prostitute to come to his house, where his infant son was sleeping in his own bedroom. When the prostitute got there, he told her to go to the bedroom and get undressed. When she did, he pulled out a knife and then proceeded to beat and rape her. He eventually stabbed her 44 times, killing her. Still coked out of his head, he wanted the party to continue, so he called 2 prostitutes, this time to his home. Same scenario, he ordered them to the bedroom. This time though, they see the dead girl on the floor. He raped both of them in front of her dead body, all the while threatening them with a knife. They somehow broke free and ran out of his house, but he gave chase and stabbed one of them on the leg, but she kept running, and the first house they saw was my family member's house. He got sentenced to 22 years in prison. Just 22 years? Yeah, that's the UK justice system for you. I live in Taiwan. I got to know an Australian here. He found a job in another city, and I went with him the day he went to meet his new employer. His new job came with an apartment. When we got off the lift, as we walked down the hall toward the apartment, we noticed every apartment on that floor had burning sticks of incense in holders next to them. After a while, I decided to not stay the night and went home. The next day, my friend contacted me to say he was back in Taipei. He then related what happened after I left. He woke up in the night, and the apartment was like a deep freeze. The windows in the apartment were open. Doors that were closed were open, and open doors closed. All the lights were on. Apparently he spent a harrowing rest of the night in that place. The next day, his new employer told him that that was her mother's apartment. The old woman fell in the living room one day, broke her head open on the tile floor, and died there in the apartment. About 3 weeks before my 7th birthday, my best friend was murdered by her dad. He stabbed her 47 times. Killed the dog. Broke up all the furniture. Tried to kill her mom. Mom got away. She came home for lunch. She wasn't there when he killed my friend. I'm so sorry. That must have been so traumatizing for you. Me and a friend were walking to the train station and we came across this biggest crow on a lamppost, and right when we were under the lamp he cawed loudly. My friend thought it would be funny to shake the pole to scare the crow away, and I swear he angered some sort of crow god, because after that he only had bad luck. We got to the station and the guy was checking our tickets, But then my friend couldn't find his. Our train was departing in 10 minutes, so he quickly ran home to go and find it, but it was to no avail. We decided to take train later so we could buy a new ticket. The thing was, when he was running home his phone fell out of his pocket and it shattered. Completely. You could see all the inner workings and everything. He proceeded to have bad luck like this for most of the week. That bird still haunts me sometimes. Crows actually recognize individual humans and will hold grudges against ones they don't like. My dad was a Boy Scout leader. They were always up to something almost every weekend. One night Dad left with the boys to go camping. Usually, I would go with them, but Dad didn't want me to come along this time. Later that night, I'm woken up to my mom in a panic because someone is coming, and we lived in South Africa. It was my dad. I noticed he was covered in blood. He told mom something and then started bawling his eyes out. I had never seen my dad cry before that day. He was driving the boys to their camping site -5 boys in the back of his U-truck. This was and still is legal where I grew up. 6 boys in the other truck behind them. Dad was pulling a trailer with all their gear. Whilst going 100 km/h the trailer hits a pothole, and the weight on the trailer being so heavy, the trailer flipped. The car behind drove into the trailer and he flipped too. Dad got himself out of the car and immediately tried looking for the boys. They were strewn all over the highway. Several had compound fractures, broken bones which have pierced through the skin. Almost all had gravel burn. He always made the boys wear helmets in the back. He then found one of his boys lying in a pool of blood with his brain exposed. He wasn't wearing his helmet. He told the boys he didn't need it and took it off where my dad couldn't see him sitting. He was never the same after that day. A very large piece of him died that day. He spiraled into depression and it still haunts him to this day. Edit. Wow guys. This really blew up. Thanks all for the kind words. Sorry. I have a similar story. If you don't want to hear it, please stop reading. At my high school some kids were helping move a set of lockers with a truck. The lockers mostly fit in the bed, so someone volunteered to ride in the back. Illegal here, with them to keep them balanced. This was like a 2-mile drive through a road that was like 15 miles per hour speed limit. My dumbass probably would have done the same thing. They drive through, hit a speed bump, and the lockers shift. The kid gets thrown out, lockers toppled out on top of him. He died. Damn. That sucks, man. Yeah, luckily all the scouts survived, but the kid with the brain showing was in a coma for a while and has had 10 surgeries to give him a new skull. Wait, he survived? He survived. My dad did first aid on everyone there until the ambulance got there 45 minutes later. Holy shit, I thought for sure multiple deaths from your story. Your dad's awesome. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.